I'm Matt Shelton. I sing for a band called The Wedding, a national touring act that I just joined about a year ago, previously from a band called Letter Kills off of Violent Def Jam Records. I've been a part of City View for about 3 years now, and ever since the very first grand opening at the elementary school. I've actually been singing professionally for about 8 years now, and it started from a calling I got when I was about 17 years old, and I was playing baseball at the time, and that was my passion. That's what I spent my life doing, and God changed my direction, saying, I specifically want you out in the world, sent by me to proclaim my name in the form of music. And I'm going to give you a gift of singing, of being a front man in a band, in a rock band. I had only listened to Christian music when I was growing up. That's all I was allowed to listen to, Christian music. But it was very clear to me from the beginning that God did not want me solely in the Christian market. I started pursuing that, moved out to California, sold everything I owned, and got out there. And within 6 months, I was signed to a major label, which is a complete miracle. It never happens. And then I spent about 4 years doing that with Letter Kills on Island Def Jam Records. Took a couple of years off, and I had gotten married and settled down here in Texas. Joined and got involved with City View. Got asked to join a band called The Wedding, and it fit perfectly in line with what God's calling was for my life. I want to make it very clear that this calling is not something that is solely based on my interests at hand. A lot of people, the way I describe it is, a lot of people ask, like, oh, how does it feel to be a rock star? The way I describe it is, if I had it my way, I'd be a professional baseball player. That's what I would love to do. It would just make me happy, I would have fun. But I love music, and it's great, and God has given me a passion and desire for it, but it's a very specific passion and desire. And it is solely based on the gospel and the fact of spreading Jesus' name. People need to know that. When you are called, it needs to be solely based on the gospel and what you are called to do. Engaging a culture is something that can be completely mistaken, because of what I do is considered an art. Culture is so broad-based as far as in what God calls us to do. When God calls you to do something, it doesn't have to be on such a high scale. You've heard of bands like Switchfoot, someone like John Foreman from Switchfoot, or even like a baseball player like Josh Hamilton. And you see that and you're like, God, put me in that position, put me in that position. And I would just like to encourage people to say that you are in that position. God has put you in that position and the people around you. And whether it's your workplace or your family or your neighborhood, my wife does even, is just as a teacher. We always talk about that she has the kids during the day and then I have the kids at night. She teaches these kids and she goes in and lives life with them, and she sees their struggles and she sees their hardships they have at home and with school and with each other and socially. And so she's able to minister and love those kids in a way that I never could. Like, I see those kids, a couple hours at night, when I'm up on stage and I have half an hour to an hour to say what it is that I need to say. You always hear the phrase, living in the world but not of the world. And a lot of Christians get that confused with being located in the world and not being of the world. But that's not what the scriptures are talking about. Location and living is completely different. Christ envelops everything that is around us in culture, and he is found in everything. And that gives us as a believer a complete advantage, because redemption can be found in so many different places in life. And we have to stay focused on the gospel, because if we are focused on our task at hand, hobbies and interests, circumstances, life scenery, whether it's a house or an apartment, 4 kids and a family, or a single man or woman, it's all about their heart. I know that I'm breathing life into culture when I recognize that God did something and then it caught up to me for a split second. I was at Walmart about half an hour ago. Guy behind me in line, "You Matt from The Wedding? I just want to thank you for everything that you do." And it was 5 seconds and it was over. Like, I can usually tell when I've breathed life into culture, when God shows me something that he did through me that I didn't initially recognize. A lot of believers expect culture to shape itself around us as believers. And the truth of the matter is it doesn't. But we'll boycott certain things in culture, whether it's a movie or music. It doesn't mean that we stop desiring, or stop asking, or stop pushing or fighting for these qualities that we desire and that are godly qualities of life. But the thing we have to realize is we can't fool ourselves into thinking that we live in a completely Christian nation. Because when we do that, we automatically put ourselves up so high that we can't see the culture around us and the people around us and the needs around us, because we're so focused on getting what we want and creating this heaven on earth that is not necessarily the same heaven and earth that God talks about bringing the heaven to earth. Because it's so easy to take things in our own hands and want Christ in the White House, want Christ in our workplace, want Christ in movies and in art. And the thing that we have to realize is that God is already in those places. He's already working. Breathing life in a culture has more to do about seeing what God is doing in and around you than it is about what you've done. What we do have the ability to do is go and engage these people and say there is a banquet waiting for you, and allow God to do the rest.